American fighting men, troop carriers, paratroops, airborne infantry, and glidermen were already there. This picture is a small tribute to those men, living and dead, who went in before H-hour on D-Day, 5 hours ahead of the main force, to start the destruction of Fortress Europe.
Can you tell me a little bit about what your father did on D-Day? From what you know or what he told you?
All I know is he got on the planes in England and they flew over the channel. And they just jumped out into the darkness. And as with many of them, I'm sure he did not land where he was supposed to.
Did your father ever talk about D-Day or what happened, what he did during D-Day at all?
The only part I know about anything he did was what I read about him.
Oh, okay.
In that book that Lieutenant Brennan wrote.
Were you upset about that?
No,
he would just say?
Okay. Growing up in the military, I understood that the men talked to the men. They were in the war. You did not let the women know these things.
Okay.
You kept all the bad and evil away from the women. That was the way my father was raised. And heaven knows I tried to talk to him. But he called me daughter. Yeah. There are some things you do not need to know.
Oh, really?
And what happened over there is one of them.
Don't forget, he said out of the 60 of them that jumped that were under his command, only he and his radio man made it down to the ground alive. The rest of them were all killed in air.
Really?
Oh, I forgot about that story.
Yeah, that's the one and only story I got out of it.
Yeah, we didn't get a lot out of it.
He told me, they literally, when they jumped out of that plane, they were curled up in the fetal position just to make as small a target for those bullets as possible. And he said bullets were just whizzing by him. They were going to hit the parachutes. It was dark. It was storming. They didn't know where they were. They just knew they were surrounded by Germans.
And at some point, he was wounded. Shrapnel in the leg? Again,
was it the night of D-Day? Sometime before he was captured on June 10th?
Yeah.
I wish I knew.
Yeah, and it was a mortar?
I'm assuming it's a mortar shell, looking at the size of that thing.
You said he had a scar on his leg? For
the
rest of about that long.
It was on the outer right calf. I remember it.
Did it affect how he walked or anything like that? Or?
Not at all. And I know some shrapnel was still in his leg to the day he died. They just said, because I could feel it under his skin, and they just said, leave it, it's not interfering with anything.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine something this big being in your leg. Jeez. But it was. There was 5 of them. And the History Channel, when they did D-Day, did mention 5 paratroopers did kill General Wilhelm Foley. I just wish they would have mentioned my dad's name and Malcolm Brennan, who was there.
And this involved an ambush of the general's car?
Mm-hmm. They were at the farmhouse and heard a car coming. And they hid. And then, according to the story, Lieutenant Brandon jumped out and told the vehicle to halt. And of course, the Major General was with another officer and his driver, and they tried to escape, and they were shooting at the Americans, and that's when, from what I understand from reading it, that the 5 of them just started shooting. And Lieutenant Brennan was the closest to the general, so from what I recollect, he shot him right in the forehead because the general was going for his weapon. The amount of German papers they found on this guy, of all the strategic German movements, and this was important. This was either June 7th or 8th. I'm not sure the exact date. And another letter came from somebody in France mentioning that if my father's group had not taken out this general, that the tide of the war could have changed.
Did he ever watch the war movies, particularly things like The Longest Day? Or
Yeah, he did not have a problem with that.
Oh, really?
It surprised me because I know my brothers, Vietnam, they could not watch things like that.
Right.
But not my dad. I think he actually put it all on the back of his head and he never forgot, but he
didn't let it affect his life.
Didn't let it affect his life.
No, Eddie was very intent on living life to the fullest and making the most of it.
So what you know about his role in D-Day is pretty much what you've read about the unit and found out, and how did that strike you in terms of what they did that night?
Well, I mean, how much more proud could a person be to know that your father was involved in something like that?
I think he, along with everyone else that served in that war, just felt such honor and pride that they were able to do what they were able to do. And he loved his country.